Have you ever had a brilliant idea, a life-changing goal, but then found yourself completely stuck, just unable to act on it? Well, you are not alone. See, the problem usually isn't your ambition, it's what you're relying on to fuel it. In this explainer, we're going to break down how to build a reliable system for action, one that works even when motivation goes missing.
Does this sound familiar? You can picture the successful version of yourself so clearly it feels real. But when it's time to actually do the work, you freeze. You are full of these incredible ideas, but you're stuck in place, knowing you're capable of so much more. This isn't a character flaw. It's a psychological pattern.
Your day starts with so much promise. You wake up with genuinely good intentions. Today is the day you're going to start that project, take that first step, and make a real change. You can feel it in your bones.
But then, it happens. You pick up your phone just to check one thing. A few minutes of scrolling turns into an hour. Before you know it, half the day is gone. You tell yourself you'll start after lunch, but that spark of motivation just isn't there anymore.
And by the time the day is over, you're lying in bed, just swimming in this feeling of guilt and frustration. Another opportunity wasted. You promise yourself tomorrow will be different, but deep down, you're afraid you're just stuck in a loop you can't escape.
So what is actually going on here? Why do we sabotage our own goals? It's because there is an invisible, constant battle happening right inside your brain.
This slide breaks down the conflict perfectly. On one side, you have your ambitious brain, the part that dreams big and sets goals. But on the other, you have your survival brain, which is hardwired to avoid difficulty and seek comfort. And right now, the survival brain is winning by giving you easy dopamine hits from distraction instead of the delayed gratification of hard work.
And the survival brain has a very clever weapon: perfectionism. You tell yourself you're just waiting for the perfect plan or for the ideal conditions. But perfectionism isn't about excellence. It's an excuse your brain creates so that you never have to start. Because if you never start, you can never fail.
So here's the bottom line. We're often so scared of failing that we forget who the real enemy is. Failure is not the opposite of success. You learn from failure. The real opposite is inaction. Doing nothing guarantees you learn nothing and achieve nothing.
Which brings us to the biggest myth of all, this idea that we need to feel motivated before we can act. Let's explore why waiting for that magical feeling is the very trap that's keeping you stuck.
I mean, think about it. Motivation is a feeling, just like happiness or sadness. It's completely unreliable. You wouldn't build a house on quicksand, so why would you try to build your future on a foundation as unstable as a fleeting emotion? You need something more solid.
So, if motivation is the problem, what's the solution? It's not about finding more willpower. It's about building a system, a reliable structure that allows you to act whether you feel like it or not.
And this slide illustrates the difference perfectly. Motivation is passive. You wait for it to arrive. A system is active. It's a structure you design and control. It's the difference between hoping for good weather and building a shelter that works in any storm.
Okay, so how do you actually build this system? How do you go from being a dreamer to being a doer? Let's break it down into a clear 4-step action plan.
First, start ridiculously small. Think write one sentence, not write a chapter. Second, design your environment for success. Third, and this is the core of it all, act anyway. Your brain will resist, but action is how you build the muscle of discipline. And finally, practice self-compassion. When you stumble, and you will stumble, forgive yourself and get right back on track.
Let's just zoom in on designing your environment, because this is a total game changer. Successful people don't have more willpower, they have better systems. They make it harder to get distracted than it is to focus. It's not about fighting temptation, it's about removing it altogether.
Lasting change isn't just about being tough on yourself. You need the discipline to get to work when it's hard, but you also need the compassion to forgive yourself when you have an off day. Without one or the other, you either burn out or you give up. It's the balance that creates momentum.
And I really want you to let this sink in. Guilt and shame are terrible motivators. You need to separate who you are from your past actions. Laziness is what you did, not who you are. Who you are is someone with the power to change that behavior starting right now.
So don't let this be just another video you scroll past. Ambition without action is just a daydream. The time for learning is over, the time for doing has begun. I'll leave you with this question. What is the one tiny, ridiculously small action you are going to take right now to start building your system?
All right, let's talk about something that is just so frustrating. It's this paradox where you are incredibly ambitious. You have these huge goals, but you get almost nothing done. If that sounds like you know how painful that feeling is. So today, we're going to figure out how to finally break free from that cycle. So let me just ask you, do you have big dreams? I mean, can you just close your eyes and picture it? The success, the life you want, it feels so real you can almost taste it. And yet, when it's time to actually do the work, what happens? You just freeze up. You're full of all these amazing ideas, but you're completely stuck, telling yourself, okay, tomorrow will be different. If this is hitting home for you, trust me, you are not alone. You know, there's a name for this whole experience. We can call it the ambitious lazy trap. And yeah, it's a painful cycle to be in, but just understanding it is the very first step to getting out. So let's break down what a typical day in this trap actually looks like. Does this timeline feel a little familiar? You wake up, you've got the best intentions, you're ready to go. But then the phone comes out. And after lunch, forget about it. All motivation is gone. You make that same promise, tomorrow. And then you're just lying in bed feeling guilty and another day is gone. It's absolutely exhausting. So, here is the most important thing you need to hear. This is not because you're a bad person. It's not because you're lazy or you lack talent. This is not a character flaw. It's a psychological pattern. Think of it like a set of wires in your brain that have just been reinforced over and over again. And you know what the good news is? If a pattern was built, it can be rewired. To actually change that wiring, we've got to understand what's really happening under the hood. There is basically a war going on inside your brain, this constant tug of war that leads to feeling totally paralyzed. This really breaks it down perfectly. On one side, you've got the dreamer. That's the part of you setting those huge, exciting goals. But on the other side, you've got the protector, and its only job is to keep you safe from anything that feels uncomfortable or like a potential failure. And for a lot of us right now, the protector is winning. So why is it winning? Well, it comes down to some really basic human psychology. Your brain is hardwired to do two things: avoid pain and seek pleasure. And when you think about that big, scary, difficult goal, your brain flags it as a threat. It means effort, uncertainty, maybe even failure. So it offers you an easy escape, like scrolling on your phone, which gives your brain a nice, quick hit of dopamine. That avoidance feels good in the moment, so your brain learns to do it again and again. So what is this pain that your brain is so desperate to avoid? Well, for so many of us, it hides behind this really convincing mask. And that mask is called perfectionism. I want you to just let this one sink in for a minute. Perfectionism isn't about having high standards. It is, quite simply, fear disguised as excellence. It's a really clever trick our brain plays on us to keep us safe. At its core, that's all it is, an excuse. You tell yourself you're just waiting for the perfect plan or the perfect moment. But perfect never actually arrives, does it? It's the ultimate defense mechanism, because if you never start, hey, you can never fail. And this is such a critical mindset shift. We think failure is the enemy, that it's the opposite of success. It's not. Inaction is. See, when you fail, you learn something. You get data. You grow. But when you do nothing, you learn nothing. I promise you, every single successful person you admire has failed way more times than you've even tried. Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem, right? We've got this war in our brain, and perfectionism is the mask it's wearing. So how in the world do we actually break this cycle? Well, it doesn't start with waiting for motivation. It starts by building systems. Here's the hard truth, and I'm just going to give it to you straight. You have to accept that you are probably never going to wake up just bursting with motivation to do the hard thing. You have to do it anyway. Action has to come before the feeling of motivation, not the other way around. So here is your game plan. It's so simple. First, you're going to start ridiculously small. I'm talking 15 minutes of work. Write one paragraph. Make one phone call. That's it. Second, your only goal is to be consistent, not perfect. Just show up again tomorrow. And third, and this is absolutely key, you have to redesign your environment. Look, successful people don't have more willpower than you. They just have better systems. They literally remove the temptations. They make it easier to focus than to get distracted. So put your phone in another room. Clean your desk. Protect a block of time every single day like it's sacred. You have to make focus the default easy option. Oof, this one's a tough one. Watching videos about productivity, reading articles about success, It feels like you're making progress, but you're not. It's just another sneaky form of avoidance. You probably don't need any more information. You already know what you need to do. It is time to stop consuming and start executing. Now, taking action, that's the engine of change. But that engine needs fuel to keep running, especially on the hard days. And that final, crucial ingredient is learning how to forgive yourself so you can actually move forward. You know, every single time you're lying in bed, beating yourself up for wasting another day, you are just reinforcing this negative cycle. You're making the problem worse, not better. Guilt and shame are terrible motivators. All they do is keep you chained to the past. Please, please remember this. There is nothing fundamentally wrong with you. You are not broken. You are not hopeless. You are just stuck in a pattern. And patterns can always be changed. This separates who you are as a person from what you've been doing. This is what forgiveness really is, in this context. It's not about letting yourself off the hook. It's about giving yourself permission to get right back on track, immediately, without having to carry the weight of yesterday's mistakes. So you messed up? Okay, try again, right now. And really, this is the ultimate takeaway. Lasting change isn't just one or the other. It's the balance of both of these things working together. You need the discipline to take action even when it's uncomfortable, and you absolutely need the self-compassion, the grace to forgive yourself when you inevitably fall short. That combo, that is the only sustainable path forward. So let's end with this, right now. Stop planning, stop consuming more information, stop waiting for the perfect moment, because ambition without action is just a fantasy. What is the one tiny, imperfect action you are going to take today to start building that momentum? Just one. Go do it now.
All right, let's get right into it. Let's talk about one of the most frustrating feelings in the world. Having these huge, amazing dreams for your life, but feeling totally paralyzed, unable to actually do anything to make them happen.
I mean, does this sound like you? You can picture that successful version of yourself, right? You can see it so clearly it feels real. But then, when it's actually time to do the work, you just stop. You find yourself saying, okay, tomorrow, I'll start tomorrow. But tomorrow never seems to come.
Hey, if that's you, I really need you to hear this. You are not lazy, you're not broken, and there's nothing fundamentally wrong with you. What you're experiencing is a pattern, a psychological loop. And the best part? Patterns can be broken.
So, to break these patterns, first we got to understand them. Let's pull back the curtain on this vicious cycle that so many of us get caught in. I call it big dreams, zero action.
You know the drill. You wake up, you're fired up, today is the day you're going to finally start that project or go to the gym or whatever it is. But then you think, I'll just check my phone for a second. And that second turns into an hour. Next thing you know, the day's half over, and then you're lying in bed at night just swimming in guilt, promising yourself that tomorrow will be different. And on it goes.
Seeing that cycle is a huge first step. But to actually break free, we have to go deeper and ask why it's happening. What is going on in our heads that keeps us so stuck? Well, it turns out there's literally a war going on inside your brain.
See, you're kind of caught in this constant tug of war. On one side, you've got your ambitious brain. This is the part that dreams big, sets those amazing goals, and imagines what success feels like. But on the other side, you've got this much older, much more powerful survival brain. Its only job is to keep you safe, and it sees discomfort, uncertainty, and especially failure as major threats. And right now, let's be honest, your survival brain is winning. Not because you're weak, but because it's just so good at its job. When you think about that big, scary goal, your brain literally flags it as a danger. So what does it do? It offers you an easy escape. Scroll social media, watch another show, anything that gives you a quick, easy hit of feel-good chemicals to make that scary feeling go away. This isn't laziness, it's your brain in full-on survival mode.
And that survival brain, it has two secret weapons that it uses to keep you safe and totally inactive. It's time we unmask these hidden enemies, perfectionism and fear.
This is so important to understand. We tend to wear perfectionism like a badge of honor, right? But really, most of the time, it's just fear wearing a fancy costume. It's a really clever excuse our brain invents to protect us from getting hurt.
You tell yourself, I can't start until I have the perfect plan, or I'll do it when I feel 100% ready. But guess what? The perfect moment, it never comes. And that's the whole point. Perfectionism isn't about doing things perfectly. Its secret mission is to prevent you from ever starting, because if you never start, you can never ever fail.
Let's just be real for a second. This is the big one. This is the fear that keeps us frozen. It is absolutely terrifying to think that if we give it our all and it doesn't work, we might have to face the idea that we're not as amazing as we hope we are. It's so much easier to just live in the fantasy world, where our potential is unlimited, than to actually risk testing it in the real world.
So we have to completely reframe how we think about this. Failure is not the enemy here. Inaction is. Failure is just data. It's learning. It's a stepping stone. Inaction, that gets you nowhere. It teaches you nothing. Just remember, every single successful person you look up to has failed way more times than you've probably even tried.
Okay, so we get the psychology now. We see the trap. Now for the most important part. How do we actually break this cycle? How do we go from being a dreamer to being a doer?
Here's a super practical 4-step plan. First, you have to start ridiculously small. I'm talking 15 minutes. Just 15. Your survival brain can't argue with that. Second, redesign your environment. Put your phone in another room, close the tabs, make focusing the easy thing to do. Third, you have to stop consuming and start creating. You've watched enough videos, you've read enough articles, you have enough info. It's time to act. And finally, number 4, embrace doing bad work. Give yourself permission for your first try to be messy and imperfect. The goal is just to start, not to be a genius on day 1.
I love this idea because it's so freeing. Discipline isn't some magic personality trait that some people have and others don't. It's a muscle, and you build it one tiny decision at a time, every time you choose to do the hard thing for just a few minutes.
But, taking action is only half the battle. To make this change actually stick, we need to talk about what happens on the days you mess up, because you will. This last piece of the puzzle is all about the power of forgiveness. Every time you're beating yourself up for wasting a day, you think you're motivating yourself for tomorrow, but you're doing the exact opposite. Guilt and shame aren't motivators. They're anchors. They just weigh you down and reinforce that story in your head that you're not good enough.
What you need instead is self-compassion. So you had a bad day? Okay, that's all it was, a day. It doesn't have to become a bad week. You have to learn to talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend who is struggling. You'd be kind, right? You'd be encouraging. This isn't about being weak. It's about being smart enough to give yourself the fuel to get back up and try again.
This right here is the winning combination. This is the secret sauce for real, lasting change. It's discipline and compassion working together. You need the discipline to do the hard things when you don't feel like it, and you need the compassion to forgive yourself when you fall short so you can get back up. You absolutely need both.
And when it's all said and done, it really just comes down to this. You can have the most brilliant, beautiful, detailed dreams in the entire world, but if you don't take action, that's all they'll ever be. A fantasy.
So, I want to leave you with this one last thought. Lazy is not who you are. It's a behavior pattern you've fallen into. Who you are is a person with incredible ambition and potential. You're just stuck. And the good news is, you now have the tools to get unstuck. You have spent enough time dreaming about the life you want. Now it's time to start building it. It's not going to be perfect, but it will be real. So my question to you is, what is the one tiny, ridiculously small, imperfect step you are going to take today?